Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of AdSkate's podcast series, Impressions and Chai. Our topic today is growing social media, building viral content, and the role of creator economy as it relates to this topics. And our guest today is Allysson Schellhase. Ali is the marketing and communications manager at Madgear. At Madgear, Ali is responsible for its global content marketing strategy. She oversees the brand's global influencer marketing strategy and has a unique take on how to grow your social media following, which I'm very much interested in learning more about today. Prior to Madgear, Ali has worked in marketing and communication roles for 6 years in college athletics. Ali, welcome to Impressions and Chai, Asker's podcast series. Where does this podcast find you today?
Thank you for having me, and we are currently in Phoenix, Arizona.
Perfect. Well, thanks for being here. I guess we can get started. So my first question really is, I love the brand. You've played a key role in boosting the social media engagement for, I guess it's fair to say, world's number one pro scooter brand. And it's a global brand. Can you share a little bit about how you were able to drive the social engagement for Mad Gear across the globe? What strategies worked for you? What is something that you've tried and did not work?
Yeah, of course. So whenever I came in, Mad Gear already had a pretty large following across a couple platforms, specifically Instagram, Facebook, but there was no social strategy at all. So that was kind of the first thing I did whenever I came in, and there was a couple things that wasn't really working for us. Initially, we were just kind of posting content to post it to kind of feed the algorithm, but there wasn't any strategy behind it. And we were posting lackluster content from some of our influencers who were kind of making subpar content. And so whenever we were going forward with a more strategic approach to our social, we had to make some we had to make some tough decisions about who we were going to feature on our branded page. So another struggle that we kind of had was sharing product details with our audience. Since we are an action sports brand, we do a lot of focus on our athletes, and from now on, I will refer to them as our influencers because that's basically what they are. Um, but we kind of had to make those decisions of who are our key influencers that we really want to feature and that we really want to push. I think at first we were kind of doing it as a free for all, but that just really wasn't working for us. And then in addition, we weren't really focusing a lot on the product that we were offering. So whenever at first we tried to make this really awesome, high quality content in our video studio of our product. It had the slow spins, it had the motion graphics. On paper, it would be very appealing to a consumer, but it didn't work. It really didn't work. So we kind of had to switch it, and we kind of went back to our roots and said, okay, let's introduce our athletes back into the picture for this. And we found that whenever we showed images and videos of the influencer interacting with the product, that just performed better than the nitty gritty getting into all the product specifications. So we really spent 2 years testing out different content strategies that aligned with our brand and our audience. And another thing besides focusing on our top influencers to feature was and the product, switching up the product strategy, was kind of bringing community to social. That is a pillar of our values at Mad Gear. Community is very important to us, and we really wanted to find a way to bring that value through in our social strategy. So one thing that has worked, I think this year will be our third annual. We do an anti-bullying campaign every single October where we post facts about anti-bullying on our social media pages, and then we encourage our influencers and send our influencers a bunch of swag from the company, and they go out into the community and they're required to make new buddies and new friends in their local community and share that on social. So that's kind of how we bring that community to social and the influencers all in one. That really worked for us. And then another thing that we've done recently that has really changed our engagement is integrating humor and the memes on TikTok and Instagram. Obviously that kind of content has been going viral for quite some time, but it's just we started really engaging with it in the past year or so, and it has been a really beneficial for us. It has really increased our followers, our views, and our engagement. So kind of, making people laugh has been a game changer for us.
Oh, I think that's real. I would just like, if I had to summarize, I would say one is for people looking to follow in your footsteps in terms of like, well, hey, how should we approach this? I guess it's fair to say experiment with a variety of different type of content, see what works for your brand. Every brand is different. And then for mostly for, I would say, D2C type of brands like Mad Gear, um I guess that community aspect looks like it works very well. Like bringing together the community, developing a strong connection between the brand and the community is what would eventually sort of at least work for Mad Gear. It looks like then you talked about high quality production videos versus that sense of community and this authenticity of the brand. I think um, uh, played a vital role in driving up your social media following, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. It's just, especially in kind of the action sport community, it is a very tight knit niche space. So being able to kind of meet our audience where they're at, and, at the end of the day, they weren't engaging with the high quality content. They like a more authentic approach and they like a more community oriented approach. But that is something that trial and error. That's what we found out basically in the past 2 years.
Okay, perfect. Now building on sort of, you in your response to the previous question you mentioned with you did started working back again with these athletes or influencers, working with them to create content, etc. So as you sort of go down this approach, or as you continue to work with content creators or influencers, depending upon what your objective for the campaign is, what attributes do you look for when you're evaluating influencers and content creators to collaborate with? Can you share some of the metrics that you take into consideration? What does your process look like, just for our audiences? So
Yeah, so we prioritize influencers who align with our brand values. So we're a huge family brand, and so an influencer who has a good online reputation is a huge factor for us. It's honestly the first thing that we look at is, does this person's online reputation align with our brand? And if so, then we're going to move forward. So, engagement on social media is really important. So, seeing if they have an engaged audience, are they getting the likes? Are they getting the comments? Are their followers really engaging with them? But, another thing that we look at is influencers who kind of have a proven track record of engaged shoppers. And we found that, our athletes or our influencers who are in the YouTube space have more engaged shoppers. And then the people who are in that TikTok, Instagram space have a better engagement. So they are two different types of influencers and two different types of metrics that we kind of value for whatever campaign that we're doing. We also do have kind of a more lifestyle side outside of the action sport pro space where we market to, the moms, because we do create products basically as young as 18 months. So we have a whole other sector of our products that we reach out and talk to influencers for. So, for brand awareness, we seek influencers with the broad reach. For something a little more niche, where we're trying to drive the sale because we know where they're at already, we're going to try to find the influencers who have a track record with the engaged shoppers.
so I
And
think, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
like, yeah, so I would say for us, we want to find people who have the ability to drive the link clicks to the website, because just a little background, Mad Gear has always been a wholesale retailer all the way up until 2021, where we launched a direct to consumer website, and that's a huge focus on my part. So, for us, it's always, how are we going to get people to the website? How are we going to get people to the website? That's like our number one thing. So how are we going to be able to track those metrics? One thing that has really been able to help us track our return on investment is engaging in an affiliate marketing software. Before, we were not using an affiliate marketing software, and Mad Gear has been interacting with these athletes and kind of these influencers for years, and basically have never had a measurement. And we were always sitting around the table being like, we spend X amount on these athletes, and how do we know what's the return on investment? What are they doing for us besides, they go to the competitions and they post, but how do you really measure it? So whenever we got into an affiliate marketing software, that's whenever we really got to have, okay, we have a quarterly report on every single influencer that we work with, how many link clicks, how much sales, how much commission are they doing? And that way we can really figure out what our return on investment on our program is. And to be honest, it's been extremely positive for us.
No, I think some very interesting points that he brought up. I think if I have to summarize your response first is um, different strategies or different objectives, different set of influences, different channels, maybe, right? Like from what you just mentioned, if you want to drive brand awareness across and have a broader reach, you typically go to influencers that are on TikTok and Instagram who
Mhm.
have a better engagement so that you can drive that brand awareness. But in the end, as a business, you have to think about sales as well, and in that scenario, a completely different set of influencers help you achieve that objective, which is typically, as you mentioned, in your case, it happens to be the folks on YouTube who are really good at driving those sales.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Is like, if I had to summarize, for different objectives of your marketing funnel, or where you what do you want to achieve at different parts of the marketing funnel, you may need to adopt a different strategy. One strategy is the same strategy may not work. Second is, I really liked the approach of trying to quantify and tracking everything. I think
Mhm.
that's very useful, so that then, it goes back to the aspect of measuring what matters. If you have no idea who is playing an effective role in your campaign, then you may not be able to recalibrate or decide whether it's working for you or not. So I think that really resonates very well. And there are a lot of tools that brands can take awareness of, which you mentioned, affiliate marketing tools that help them effectively measure across channels which influencers and which creators are working. So I that was at least to me very, very valuable. Now, the next question, sort of, will help our audiences with, and a lot of our audiences are influencers themselves, right? Like, so what are some of the things that influencers or these content creators can do to make it easier for brands to work with them? I guess, if I had to further elaborate on that question, is how can they make your job easier when it comes to you evaluating them?
Yeah. So for us, I would say the number one thing is be a good communicator. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times, maybe I see somebody across social that I really want to work with, and then maybe we do contact with them, and it's 1 to 2 week responses. And, I just think it'd be a lot faster, if you're a good communicator and you keep on top of on top of your responses. And not everybody is a big email fan. I personally love communicating via email, but basically none of my influencers like to communicate via email. They all want to text because they're all pretty much under 30. So, you know what? I have a work phone. I text them. I'm going to meet them where they're at, but it's also a two-way street. So having the open communication is definitely number one. And if you are actively looking to partner with brands, make sure you have some sort of contact information easily accessible on your profile, because shooting a DM, for me, I feel like it's a little impersonal and it could get lost in the however many DMs they have, or get stuck in the requests for X amount of months. And at the end of the day, you really don't want to lose an opportunity with a brand that really wants to partner with you. And I can say from experience that that has happened. And another thing I would say, like a piece of advice I would say, is if you do get that brand deal, try to personalize it and make it your own, that kind of relates to your audience and your brands and your values, that kind of connects with the brand. And I have a really good example of this, actually. So last fall, we did a huge campaign for this new scooter. It was a light up scooter, very, very cool scooter, by the way. And it's for little kids ages like 4 years and up. So we partnered with, I think, about 23 different mom and dad influencers to roll out this campaign. And one of the influencers that we partnered with was on TikTok, and his name was John, and he is an at-home baker. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, how did an action sports brand and an at-home baker do a partnership? And, I kind of asked myself the same question. But to be honest, when I saw his profile, I was like, this guy, he's unique, he's fun, he has got little adorable children that he loves to show off. Let's see what happens. And I gave him full creative control, and he ended up making a replica cake of the scooter. It was like a light up scooter cake that looked exactly like the scooter that we had sent him. And you can see in the video his little girl's getting excited, and she's like, "Daddy, that looks just like my scooter." And then it kind of cuts to them eating the cake and then riding the scooters. I mean, it was one of the most unique pieces of content I think we've ever gotten for that campaign, and it performed great on his social media. So it gave us really great reach, and it was totally unique. It aligned with him and it aligned with us. So if you can do something magical like that for a brand, that's exactly what I think that should be your main goal.
That's awesome, actually. I mean, I wouldn't have imagined an at-home baker driving, awareness or sales for someone like Matt Garrett.
Yeah.
So definitely a very interesting example there. Um, so I think so. We've seen influencer marketing and content creator and the creator economy starting to become a more mainstream strategy for brands, especially for D2C brands. They play a very important role. And so then my next question is more about future predictions. Like, where do you think creator economy and influencer marketing is headed? Any thoughts? Any predictions there?
Yeah, so for us, I would say, in the action sports space, we are kind of in those macro creator spaces where we do partner with some of the biggest names in the industry, and I do think that does work well for us. However, I think in that space and even in our lifestyle space, there's going to be a shift to these micro influencers, and for us, I think it's going to be great, and maybe even for all brands it'll be great because it's way more cost effective. There is a smaller audience, which I know some people would see that as a con, but for us, a smaller audience also means they have a stronger bond with that audience. They have they have a fostered community that is very specific. Partnering with somebody, for example, like a Jenner or a Kardashian, while you may get extreme reach, what's really the quality behind that? And I really think the influencer market, I think we're going to stop looking at these broad reach metrics, and then we're going to go more tied in for those really meaningful connections that we're going to make with the consumer, because at the end of the day, the consumer is always going to trust the influencer or the friend over the brand, period. So that's something that we really have to understand. And you know what, I don't know if they're really going to trust the macro influencer anymore. I think they are losing some of that trust that they used to have because it's getting so saturated. So I think the number one thing that I would say prediction wise is focusing on those micro influencers and really focusing on the content they create that kind of creates those feel good moments, similar to kind of like my cake story.
So I guess the two key takeaways, if I have to gather from your responses, you know, picking influencers that help you build trust and meaningful connections with your brand. I think that's going to be the future of how brands work with influencers and content creators going forward. Um, Perfect. I'd like to now shift gears and come to sort of like the final part of the podcast. I have some rapid fire questions for you, if you will. So first one is, when it comes to influencer marketing, what is your favorite social media channel?
Okay, well, TikTok for humor and reach, and then I would say YouTube for sales.
Okay, perfect, good. Um, what are your top three all-time favorite books that you'd recommend to anyone? Uh,
Okay, I would say anything written by Brene Brown. She is basically are you familiar?
yeah,
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 she's the
yeah.
best. She really is the best. So, my top 3 that I really like from her are the Daring Greatly, Dare to Lead, and Brave the Wilderness. All 3 really great books that, whether if you're in marketing or you're in accounting, if you're a business professional and you're working with people and you're working with teams, you need to be reading those books.
Yeah, I like her too. She's real. She's like
Yeah,
no
she
holds
is.
barred, very authentic. Yeah, she's good.
She's the best.
Um, and then professionally speaking, what is one piece of technology that you cannot live with in your day to day job?
It's probably going to sound cliche, but it's got to be my MacBook Air. I love that I can keep everything seamlessly because it goes from my MacBook Air to my iPhone. So whether I'm sitting at my desk working or I'm on the go doing an event coverage or whatever, I have seamlessly, kind of connected all the time with those two products.
Well, that brings us towards the end of this episode. Ali, this was a blast. Very useful information, very insightful. I hope a lot of our audiences are going to have some key takeaways from this. So, thank you so much for your time, and good luck with everything.
Yes, thank you. And you can check us out at madgear.com.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.